Hi everyone, welcome to the second lesson of pre-algebra. Today we're going to be talking about the order of operations. Now, if you just started learning pre-algebra, you probably don't know what this is. The order of operations is basically a rule that tells us on how to approach mathematical equations. So to put this into more simpler words, I'm going to start off with the equation. So let's do 6 times 4. Now, as you can see in this expression, there's two different operations involved, which is addition and multiplication. And this can be approached in two different ways. The first way is to do addition first. So I'm just going to rewrite this problem here, and we're going to do 2 plus 6, which is 8, and then times 4, which equals 32. The other way to approach this is to do multiplication first. So that would be 2 plus 6 times 4, but you would be doing 6 times 4 first, which equals 24. So it would be 2 plus 24, which is... Now, as you can see, these two different ways to interpret it resulted in two different answers. So how do we decide which answer is correct? That's when the order of operations kicks in. The order of operations basically tells us which operations we're going to start off with first. So according to the order of operations, the first step in solving all equations is to do parentheses first. So I'm just going to write this down here. So parentheses. And then next we would do exponents. And now if you don't know what exponents are, that's okay for now because we will be learning that in our next lessons. And then after exponents is multiplication and division. Now multiplication and division are prioritized on the same level, so just keep that in mind that it's not multiplication first, they're the same. And then the same goes with addition and subtraction. They are on the same level. Now this is what is the order of operation. It's the foundation of all math, and you will be using this concept in Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and even harder maths like calculus. So make sure that you know what this is and have this memorized. So if we look back on the problem that I gave, which is 2 plus 6 times 4, let's try solving it again to see which one is the correct answer. So if we look at the order of operations, we first need to see if there's any parentheses. But in this simple expression, there is no prong to exponents. If you don't know what exponents are, they're numbers with superscripts, so something that looks like this. And we have none of that here, so we can move on to multiplication and division. And we do have multiplication right here, which is 6 times 4. So that means we would do 6 times 4 first. So the second way that we approached it was the correct way, because the fourth step is to do addition and subtraction. So as you can see, addition comes after multiplication, so the right answer in this case would be 26. Now let's do a more complicated example, which would be 6 plus 7 minus 6 divided by 3. So abbreviate the order of operations into PEMDAS. And this just is a simpler way to remember what comes first. So according to PEMDAS, we do parentheses first, which we see right here. So we do whatever is in the parentheses no matter what operation it is. So we have 15 minus 6 in the parentheses, which is 9. So I'm going to copy down the rest of the equation. So now that all the parentheses are gone, we move on to exponents, which, as I said before, are numbers with superscripts. But we have none of that here, so we move on to multiplication and division. We have no multiplication, but we do have division, So we're going to do 9 divided by 3, which is 3. So 6 plus 7 minus 3. And now we move on to addition and subtraction because there's no multiplication and division. And so the question that comes up is, which one do we do first? Addition. When you have two operations of the same level of priority, you just go from left to right. And a simpler way to remember that is just how we read. We always read from left to right. So we do addition first in this case because it is the furthest on the left. So 6 plus 7 is 13, and then minus 3 equals 10. Expression is 10. Our next example is, 1 plus 9 times 3 divided by 5 minus 7 times 8. And then I'm going to write PEMDAS here once again. So starting with parentheses, we see that there's one parenthesis right here, and we will do 1 plus 9. So 1 plus 9 is 10, and then I'm going to copy down the rest of the problem. So after parentheses comes exponents, and there's no exponents once again, and so we move on to multiplication and division. Now we have 2 multiplications and 1 division here. So as I said before, we always go from left to right when we have 2 operations of the same priority. So the first thing we see is 10 times 3, and 10 times 3 is 30. Next, we have division next in line, so we do 30 divided by 5, which is 6. And now we have subtraction and multiplication left, and subtraction is last, so we do the multiplication first. So 7 times 8, which is 56. So we are left with 6 minus 56, which is negative 50. And that is our answer. The next problem we have is 5 plus 12 times 2 divided by 8 minus 4. So, as always, we do the parentheses first, which is 4 minus 1. So 4 minus 1 is 3. And then we copy down the rest of the problem. And then next up, there's no exponents once again, and so we do multiplication and division. And we have both multiplication and division, so we do 12 times 2 first because it's on the furthest left. So that would be 5 plus 24 divided by 8 minus 3. So now we only have division left, so we do 24 divided by 8, which is 3. So it would be 5 plus 3 minus 3. And now we only have addition and subtraction remaining. So we go from left to right again and do 5 plus 3 first, which is 8, and then minus 3. So our answer that we are left with here is 5. So as I repeated before, when there's 2 operations of the same level, you simply go from left to right. So 2 operations that are on the same level are addition and subtraction. So an example, addition and subtraction. So an example of that would be 5 minus 4 plus 6 minus 3. Now, since we only have addition and subtraction here, we simply just work our way to the right. 5 plus 2 is 7, and then minus 4 plus 6 minus 3. 7 minus 4 is 3. 3 plus 6 is 9, and 9 minus 3 equals 6. So our answer is 6. Now, another two operations that are on the same level are multiplication and division. So an expression with only these two operations would be 3 times 4 divided by 6 times 5. So since we only have these two operations, we're going to go from left to right once again. So 3 times 4 is 12, then 6 times 5, and then 12 divided by 6 equals 2, and 2 times 5 is 10. So 10 is our answer. Now, the only time that the order of operations is loose is when there's all addition or all multiplication and nothing else. So what I mean by that is, if we have something like 7 plus 6 plus 2 plus 4 plus 1, we only have addition here, and that means that the order of operations doesn't really apply. So we can work in any order that we want. So to prove this, I'm going to solve this problem in two different ways. So we can first work from left to right, which would be 13 plus 2 plus 4 plus 1, 15 plus 4 plus 1, 19 plus 1, which is 20. Or we can just go in a random order. So I'm going to do 6 plus 2 first. So 7 plus 8 plus 4 plus 1. And then maybe I'll do 4 plus 1. So 7 plus 8 plus 5. And then I'm going to do 7 plus 8, which is 15 plus 5, and I still get 20. So as you can see, I didn't work in from left to right, but I still got the answer 20. And this only works when there's all addition or all multiplication. Let's try it with multiplication. So 4 times 2 times 0 times 9 times 5. So since there's all multiplication, the order of operations doesn't apply, and we can work in any order that we want. First, I'm going to go from left to right again. So that would be 8 times 0 times 9 times 5. And that's going to equal 0 times 9 times 5, or 0 times 5, which is just 0. And then I'm going to solve it again, going in any order that I want. So let's do 0 times 9 first. So 4 times 2 times 0 times 5. And then 4 times 2, which is 8 times 0. And then we can do 0 times 5, which is also 0. And then 8 times 0 is simply 0. So we got the same answer with both ways once again. So it shows that when there is all multiplication or all addition, the order of operations doesn't apply. But we need to keep in mind that this does not work for any other operation. So with the order of operations, as I mentioned before, people like to remember it as PEMDAS. And you just need to know that multiplication and division are considered the same level, and the same goes for addition and subtraction. Even though we like to write it out as PEMDAS, and it may seem like multiplication comes first, that is not the case. So just keep that in mind when you use this abbreviation. If you have trouble remembering the word PEMDAS, you can also use sayings such as, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. This is one way you can remember this abbreviation. It's also a catchy saying, so it will most likely stay in your memory. Now we're going to move on to more complex equations with more steps. So our first example is 2 times 6 plus parentheses 6 plus 4 times parentheses 5 minus 3, and then divide by 2 times 3. 2 times 3. So this problem looks super complicated and hard at first, but once we break it down into different steps, it's actually a lot easier than you may think it is. So starting with the first rule of the order of operations, the parentheses. So as you can see, we actually have 2 sets of parentheses here. And now when this happens, that means you always work your way from the inside to the outside. So we're going to do this small parentheses first. So in this small parentheses, we have 5 minus 3, which we know is 2. So I'm just going to copy down and the rest of the problem. Divide by 2 times 3. So since we still have a parentheses, we once again do everything inside of this parentheses. But inside the parentheses, we have more than one operation. And when this happens, we do what we normally do. We apply the order of operations, and according to that, we always do multiplication before addition. So I'm going to do 4 times 2 first. So that's going to be 6 plus, let me just change the color, 6 plus 8. And then copy the rest of the equation down. So we still haven't gotten rid of our parentheses, so let's do that for now. So inside the parentheses we have 6 plus 8, which we know is 14. And now that we got all our parentheses gone, we're going to move on to the next step of the order of operations, which is exponents. And like our previous problems, I don't see any exponents here, so we skip that step and go to multiplication and division. So we have a multiplication symbol here, a division symbol here, and another multiplication symbol here. So like I explained before, we always go from left to right when this happens. So we're going to be doing 2 times 6 first. And 2 times 6 is 12. And then copy down the rest of the equation. Now we still have one more division and another multiplication left. And the left we have 14 divided by 2, which we know is 7. So that's going to be 12 plus 7 times 3. And now we don't have any more division, but we have another multiplication. 7 times 3. And we know that is 21. So that's 21. And that is equal to 33. So our final answer here is 33. And even though this long expression looked really complicated, after breaking it down and using the order of operation, it's not actually too bad. So let's do another example that is similar to this. Let's do 27 plus 3 squared minus 12 divided by 3 times 2 divided by 2 plus 4. Now, as we see here, I added an exponent just so that we can follow the order of operations more smoothly. And you probably haven't learned exponents yet if you're just starting pre-algebra, and so don't worry too much about it. It's just another way to express multiplication, and if you want a more in-depth lesson about it, stay tuned for the next few videos that are uploaded. Talk too much about the exponents today, but I'm just going to use it as an example of what you would do when it's in an expression like this. So let's follow the order of operations. Our first step is parentheses, and it's 2 sets of parentheses. And like I said before, you always work your way from inside to outside, so we're going to be doing 3 times 2 first. And 3 times 2 we know is 6. So this is going to look like 12 divided by 6. And then I'm going to copy the rest of the equation down. So we still need to get rid of our parentheses, so let's do whatever is left in the parentheses, which is 12 divided by 6. And we know that is 2. So it's going to look like 27 plus 3 squared minus 2 divided by 2 plus 4. Now, since we got rid of all our parentheses, we do the next step in the order of operations, which is exponents. And like I said before, this may look hard or complicated at first, but it's actually just another way to rewrite multiplication. And so I'm not going to get into too much detail with this because I'm trying to teach order of operations, but 3 squared is just equal to 9. So let's do that first. And now we got rid of all the exponents. Since we have all the exponents done, now we move on to multiplication and division. We don't have any multiplication here, but we do have one division, which is 2 divided by 2, which we know is 1. So that's going to look like 27 plus 9 minus 1 plus 4. And now, since we got rid of all our multiplication and division, we move on to subtraction and addition. And as I said and repeated many times before, we always go from left to right when the operations that are remaining are on the same level of priority. So let's start with 27 plus 9, which we know is 36. And then next we would do 36 minus 1. And 36 minus 1 is 35. And then 35 plus 4 is 39. So our answer to this long expression is simply just 39. So that's it for today. This is just an overview of what the order is. And so make sure to keep in mind that you do parentheses first, then exponents, then multiplication and division, and then addition and subtraction. Keep this expression in mind, and calculating and solving expressions with multiple different operations will be very easy. And that's it for today. Comment down below if you have any questions or feedback that you would like to give, and we'll see you in our next lesson. Thank you.